So the next presenter or presentation will be immersive media experiences. What do we need to move forward? So I think that's a very important question. So it's not only about the technical progress and what we can expect as new devices to see better immersive media, but also the question, what kind of storytelling are necessary? How is the social impact on immersive media? What can we expect in the future on this topic? And for this presentation, we have Andrew Perkis from the Norwegian University of Science and Technology. Andrew received several degrees. I will not talk about all of them because it's a lot. The last was a Master of Technology Management from several universities. His current research focus is within the synergy of art and technology, method and functionality, quality assessment, and much more. So that means he can tell us a lot about what we have to consider to get a good immersive experience and what kind of business model might be behind this. Yeah, please welcome with me, Andrew Perkis.
Thank you very much, and good morning. I think this question is a bold question. It's a good time to ask this question, and I'll try to give you some highlights of my answer to this question. Now, to do that, I need to sort of tell you a little bit more than Siegfried so kindly did of who I am. You know, I'm a professor at the Department of Electronic Systems. I am an electronic engineer, so I'm an engineer by trade. What I do is very interdisciplinary, and that's why I've ventured into this art and technology. And when people ask me what I do, I say I work in sensor-based digital storytelling, which is maybe not a very well-defined term, but it covers definitely virtual reality, augmented reality, and mixed reality. So to be able to do this work, I have my own strengths. You know, I have my monodisciplinary work. I work in compression and sensor technology and quality modeling and assessment. But to be able to work within immersive media, I need to collaborate. So I need to be interdisciplinary. So I need to collaborate with people that actually know content. I need to work with people that are creative. I need to work with people that have social engagement, and also to be able to, as an engineer, become better in reflections and dissemination of what we're actually doing. And this is what I'm trying to convince you today, because I'm here because I want to share these ideas and discuss with you. I think the opening keynote of this conference by Juliana clearly said that, you know, immersive media will only move forward if the creative and the technology works together. One must not serve the other and reverse, but actually work together. And I think in Igor's nice presentation, some of his results can easily be used to drive the storytelling, because the experiments clearly give results that the creative people can use to make better stories in this immersive environment. So I think what we're all trying to do is we're trying to use some kind of technology. We're trying to put something on your head, or we're trying to put something in your imagination using this electronics. But what we're really trying to do is we're trying to tickle our senses, right? We're trying to tickle our 5 senses, or maybe even 6 senses, in some way, and we need to understand what we're doing. So in order to move forward, I think we also need to take a step backwards and sort of ask some fundamental questions. Now, what is immersion? There's a lot of talk about immersion. There's a lot of talk in the industry, which I think you're predominantly from here. There's talk about immersion in the academic communities also, and we need to discuss what are the tools to create immersion. And then I think, very importantly, if we create immersion, how do we measure the quality of this experience? This is crucial. So if we sort of try to make a radar of immersion, I think the heart of immersion, definitely in the theory, is this concept of presence. And I will discuss this a little later when I try to define what immersion is. But of course, immersion is worked on within the fields of psychology and sociology. It's worked on in technology, as we're discussing here. It's also worked on in the narrative communities, or narratology, and it's also worked on in the gaming community. It's in the sociology community. So all these communities talk about the same thing, but they probably don't talk about it in the same way. Maybe they don't even have the same understanding of all of this. So this radar is important to look back at. So this will be a little sort of philosophical approach to what immersion is, slightly different from the talks at this conference, which are very technology oriented. And of course the tools that we want to use are, we always see that immersion and an immersive media experience sort of transforms the traditional viewer or listener into a participant. So it's participatory storytelling. We need to understand this, and we need to make something that's engaging, and we need to make something that bases on interactivity and that's based on involvement. These are definitely the tools. And of course then at the end, when we've created this beautiful immersive media experiences, we need to measure it. And wouldn't it be nice if we could sort of devise and further the quality of experience notation to something, you know, that we could just plug in. We could plug into all our viewers, all our participants in this beautiful immersive media experience, and it would give us a number. You know, just imagine if this story gave us the number 47, and everyone in this room could know, yeah, 47, that's a good immersive media experience. It really uses the right tools. It's really immersive. But this doesn't really exist yet, so we need to work more on this quality of experience rationale. And of course, we're doing this for all, not just virtual reality, but even, you know, all of these extended realities, the augmented reality, the virtual reality, and the mixed reality. And we had a nice boost. I don't know how many of you still play Pokemon Go. Anyone that plays Pokemon Go still? None. You know, we had 50 million users the first week and then 200 the second week. So obviously there was something there that tickled our senses, but for some reason it didn't sort of stay on in a way. Now virtual reality too is desperately seeking applications. It's desperately seeking use cases where this can be useful. And one of the use cases I work a lot with, I work with the print media. I use with the news and media industry. And the news and media industry are an industry that is really, really, really hurting. It's on its back. Newspapers are closing down daily. So they're looking into these new tools and definitely into virtual reality, 360 video. This is just a little plug for the World Association for News and Newspapers. We work with the VR World Forum, and we have this competition on VR journalism. This year's competition had an enormous amount of entries, and this is just a picture of the 5 finalists. Finally, there was a journalistic piece called The Enemy that was the winner. Mixed realities, of course, they also have a lot of new applications. So if we just sort of step back for a moment and try to understand what is a media and immersive media experience. And I think Siegfried mentioned this cycle. We're in a, you know, we're in a not so good a state. We're in the disillusionment. So we really need to find out what are we doing. Is this going to go away again? You know, augmented and virtual reality for sure is not new. It's been here for at least 60, 70 years. So why will it succeed now? So this is sort of something that should spur us to reflect and understand and try to discuss what is immersion, what is presence, and how are they related. I think in this conference there's been many talks about immersion, and this is on the technical part of immersion. Right? It's on the 5 highs. It's on the high spatial resolution, high frame rates, high dynamic range, extended video color gamut, and also extended number of dimensions, views. But these are okay, but these are not the factors that are going to make immersive media experiences succeed. These are necessary, but they should be hidden. Because what we really want to do is we want to go into this radar and we want to find out the interdisciplinary immersion because it's within the interdisciplinary field that we as humans live, and that's where we want to consume these, or participate, or engage, or involve in our immersive media experiences. So we sort of better need to understand, and I think one definition which you might be aware of from an academic colleague of mine, Mel Slater, he's sort of made a framework for immersive environments that I still think is very valid, and often it's useful to go back and look into this. You know, he has 3 stages of immersion, and the first stage he defines as the place illusion, and the place illusion is the illusion of being there. It's a sense of being there, and if you put on a head-mounted display, and the presentation is from like one of our journalistic places, the inside of North Korea. I don't assume that many have been there actually, but you know, in this journalistic piece, they took a 360 camera into North Korea and they made a piece of journalism. When you put on this head-mounted display, you will definitely see you're in North Korea. So you get this place of illusion. And I think this is very much where the industry is at today. We create these 360 videos, and then we let the participants explore. But to be able to be fully immersive, we need to move to the next step, and this must also be fulfilled. And this is, do you really feel that this is happening? Is it plausible? And if you move on to the next one, do you really feel that your body is there? Do you feel that this is me? And of course, this goes a little bit beyond 360 video, because you won't feel that you're there with your body if you don't see your hands and feet. Now you need to lose yourself and get full body ownership, which is plausible and which gives you the place illusion. So this is the stories we need to tell. And for the technical considerations, you know, immersive media technology experiences, the immersive, well, we try to define and understand the media technology. We know we have a plethora of standards. We have the OMAF, which Igor talked about and which has been presented here. We have several compression schemes. We also have streaming. We have network media handling. And we know that this makes an experience, and we know that we have users, and the users are probably the most important, because the users or the participants are those that at the end of the day are going to pay for the bill. So if we follow this natural flow, we can try to build a model. And this is a media experience or immersive media experience model. And the glue in this model is the quality of experience. So, you know, if you go to the physical layer, this is how things have to be made. This is how they have to be represented. This is where the 5 highs come in. We need to have enough resolution, enough frame rate, etc. We need to be able to deliver it. This is where the streaming comes in. And then the interactivity, the user, and the ecosystem is where we need to work more. This is where we need to further. If we work more on these 3 levels, if we try to bring the creative, if we try to bring the story and the storytelling into the equation, optimizing the quality of experience, I think this is a way to move forward and succeed. Of course, also technical, you have this flow diagram, which is very, very basic. It's the same for 2D productions, 3D productions. It's sort of all about capturing, processing, encoding, delivering, decoding, and rendering. So that's not really where the problem is. I think there are enough standards, there's enough technology to be able to make this in a very nice way. However, on the creative considerations, this is probably where there's a slight weakness. And to be able to be creative, you need to say that this has to be story-driven. Now, if you can't drive through technology a good story, people will sort of view this as something that has a nice wow factor, but they won't come back. And what we want is we want them to come back. So if we want them to come back, there has to be a real need to use these different types of mixed reality, augmented reality, virtual reality, mobile, wearable, social TV, 360 video. that has to be the drive. The story has to be the drive, not the fact that we have the technology and the fact that we can do it, but there has to be a story that needs it. Because we, as participants and users, we're pretty, we're not very trustworthy. We will only go there if we really feel that this is necessary, good, and something that we want. And this is like transmedia. So, of course, Henry Jenkins' book about transmedia is old, but it's still very relevant. The main driving force there was that he said that if media and if the story elements fit together, it's a much larger and better story than if they're independent and all over the place. So this was sort of the start of the transmedia boom about 20, 30 years ago. And there are some that have tried to take this a little bit forward. This is from a Norwegian broadcast of the show Lost in Time. I'm not entirely sure that this has been shown anywhere else. Has anyone seen this show, which is called Lost in Time? It's from Fremantle Media. It's actually an interactive game which is broadcast as an episodic feature on TV. This was shown in Norway from a TV channel owned by the Discovery Network about a year ago. 8 episodes where you use green screen technology. There are participants in the studio which are playing the game, and you can actually enter the game from home and be transported into the game that the participants in the TV show are playing. So it's a really true mixed reality TV show. And this is something that shows that the story, although taken from gaming, is the one that drives the TV show, and it was immensely popular. Unfortunately, there are still some technical hiccups, so after episode 1, where some of the technology didn't work as expected, the viewers, few of them dropped out, but it was fairly successful. There are quests in this game. You can help the participants in the studio, which are transported in the game, and you will move them forward. So it is an interactive game show. There have been several other interactive game shows on Norwegian TV, Norwegian broadcasting, so definitely some broadcasters are thinking that this is going to be something that's good. Now, another case study that we do in my lab is that we're trying to use VR, and we've created the story around it through a rowing machine. And I'm sure you might have seen such a rowing machine in the gyms. It's exactly the same as in a gym, although this particular rowing machine we're using is stacked full of sensors. So there are sensors all over the place. So we use the sensors to drive motivational training. For professional athletes, we have a virtual coach. So you put on your head-mounted display and you start rowing on this machine, which is very physical, so you will definitely feel you're there. And you get some kind of a body ownership because you do actually see your hands and you do see the oars move. And of course, we can put you into any virtual environment. So this is a core technology which uses sensor-based digital storytelling to work in sports technology. And of course, we can put in as much of the sensor data, the bio data from any pulse band, or we even have a breathing sensor that gives you instant feedback. And then we're trying to look into how this can be used for elderly, try to activate elderly, try to get them into some active living. And then we also try to use this for social reflection. So this picture here, you might not have seen, but this is the Northern Lights, or Aurora Borealis, and that's quite spectacular. So what we're trying to do is we take recordings and pictures of the Northern Lights, and we had an art exhibition called Visualizing the Creatures of the Night, because they move spectacularly, so that we draw people into an art exhibition to actually have them reflect about our social and our environmental issues. If we don't do anything about our environmental issues, the Northern Lights might disappear, etc., and use these kind of things. So using virtual reality or interactive media, both for elderly and socially change and the sports technology at the same time, is very multidisciplinary. So of course the last thing that I feel has not been discussed so much in this community and maybe in other communities is that immersive media and immersive media experiences have a great social, ethical, and legal impact. We're looking a lot at the ethical and legal since we're working with journalists. They have certain ethical rules they need to follow, and this is challenged even by 360 video. So starting to discuss also this is the way forward to making a best practice, because this needs to be a part of the best practice. And there was something similar in Lawrence Lessie's book about code and other laws of cyberspace. They were sort of trying to make the ethical, legal guidelines for the internet or the web. They came into some chaotic stage. Code was hard to control. And maybe there's a lesson to be learned there. Maybe it's worth us looking into the legal and ethical issues of immersive media experiences a little earlier than they did when the web was developed. And of course, the social impact. The social impact is quite large. If you put on a head-mounted display, of course, you can tickle your senses, but you're sort of alone. So we need also to find out how can we make immersive media experiences that take all our senses into consideration and maybe also have the same immersive media experiences we're talking about, but wouldn't it be nice to have them without the head-mounted displays? How about using the place, using where you are, using the walls, using the ceiling, using each other as screens and as such? Now this is of course one of many YouTube videos. If you just look at search for immersive media experiences or best media experiences, I think we should reflect over this clip. You know, is this a good experience or a bad experience? Is this what we want to do? Is this, you know, is this serious enough? Is this going to make this guy come back and pay for the next ride? You know, this is typically kind of a location-based VR experience. So I think this is very important. It's very important to try to measure. It's very important to reflect over the stories we're actually trying to make. And you know, I think immersive media, I'll be positive. Immersive media is here to stay this time, but they should be judged in their own right. It's very important that we get the creatives on board. It's very important that we get the likes of the 13 Ninjas to be interested in producing good VR, even good VR series like the Invisible VR series, episodic, that Juliana was talking about. They do make significant impact on the use and experience of digital media through innovation. But this innovation can only be as good as we make it with our technology, working together with our storytellers, trying to make the best possible qualitative experience for participants in immersive media. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Andrew. I think we have a lot of time for questions, so please, if you have some questions, go to the mic and ask. I think it was a very good overview what kind of senses we want to address and what we have to consider to make good movies.
I'll take any opinions too. This is my opinion.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. My name is Tim Sassoon, currently independent. I wouldn't just rely on entertainment. I think especially in AR there's a lot of practical use cases. For instance, if I wanted to put something on that chair, to be able to run a finite element analysis on it to see if the chair will actually bear the weight of what I'm going to drop on it, that kind of thing could be extremely useful.
I think this is for sure going to be one of the drivers, and I think there's really no difference between entertainment and the practical industrial use cases. They still have to have a good story. Even in a very popular aspect of augmented and virtual reality, which is in learning and education, the learning and education, for it to be educational and for it to be motivational and for you to get a learning outcome, you really need to pay attention to how you build a story It's not just putting a camera recording and the education will be done by itself. It has to be driven by the same principles, really strong tools, really strong creative input, and focus 100% on the storytelling behind it.
Merrill Weiss Group. Let me repeat the question that I asked the last presenter, and I suspect that you may have a different kind of answer. My question was whether there was a way to take the information that was being learned by observing people's reactions to content in this kind of environment and use it to help the creative people who were creating content to do a better job of drawing focus where they wanted it, of engaging people in the story and making sure that they had the time to react to changes and find where the action was, things of that sort. And is there a way that you see, given your background in both the, I'll call it the sensorial side and the connection to the creative side, to impart that knowledge to the creative community so they can do a better job of utilizing the tools that are now becoming available?
Thank you very much. I think this is a crucial question and a very interesting question. Now, there are several approaches to that. The approach that I would take is that I would like to work together with the creative community. I would like to work together with the film schools. Let's say if we go back to the art of making movies and films. You know, this is usually something that's taught through a creative person going to a film school. Now, they have a little bit of technology, but for this immersive media experiences to succeed, they need to know a lot more about the technology, and they need to influence the technology, so they need to work together with us. So you can only do this if you have these interdisciplinary research and educational institutions that actually let the creatives try out the technology, let them in on the type of experiments that Igor was talking about in the first place, and slowly get this into the education of new, young, talented producers which know about the technology, that have had the ability and the opportunity to experiment with the technology themselves so that we, again, can adapt our technology to their needs. And we can only do this by a series of subjective experiments where we try out things, because I don't think there is an analytic answer. There's no formula for making a good immersive media experience. We're in its childhood, so we need to work together, and that's my key takeaway. The creative and the technology, the storytellers and those that design requirements and implement technology have to work together on equal terms for this to be a success at all.
If I could react to that, what I heard you say was we need to do this with new young people coming into it. Is there a way to help those who are more experienced, let me call it, to get there just as well? Because if we have to wait for the next generation, it may not happen as quickly as it would if people who already have a base of experience can start applying the tools.
Well, I would agree, but and unfortunately, I don't have the answer to that. But I think you'll see more and more publications going towards making best practices. Definitely, the next publication that's going to come out of my group or out of a European group is going to be a white paper on the definition of immersive media experiences. That's a good way to start. You know, if we can come up with some common grounds of a definition, what it actually is, that means a community will grow because we're sort of speaking the same language. And we have a parallel to this because the same group published about 10 years ago a white paper on the quality of experience. Quality of experience was also very ill-defined at one stage, but we sort of got together, academics, we wrote a white paper. A white paper is very accessible. It can be read by literally anyone in the business. And then slowly they started converging around this definition. If we can define immersive media experiences, maybe this is a way to go forward and make some and build some best practices, taking into consideration both the creative and the technology.
Okay, so with then a final question from my side. So what do you think is the best driver for immersive media? Will it be games? Will it be narrative stories? Will it be teaching and learning? Or will it all of them?
I think what I'm going to do, and I think is the best way forward, I'm going to take an application area which is loved by many, and this is sports. So I think within sports, immersive media experiences make a lot of sense, and I think this is where we can make the first impact. And sports will cover anything from the motivational, the training aspect for the athletes or the performers themselves, and also it's a crucial part of entertainment, and it's a part of entertainment that, excuse the expression, is loaded with cash. So it's a good place to be, and I think they're the first ones that can drive something that is sustainable forward. Sports technology.
Okay, thank you very much with this. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please tap the like button and also subscribe to our channel to receive notifications when we add new content. For more information about us, please visit SMPTE.org. We'll see you next time.